Well, an absolutely fantastic feeling. Walking away from Monza with 2 more points to our name and a successful weekend, really, with the introduction of Franco Colapinto to our lineup and a car where the updates are performing. Monza's a very different track to what we've had in Zandvoort since the updates have been introduced. One is really maximum downforce. The second is actually the lower end of the downforce. And it really tests how you can balance the car between those two and whether or not base floor performance and bodywork performance is there. And I'm pleased to say in both cases, we're able to put the car into the top 10. And in both cases, we would have been able to score points. Obviously, Zandvoort, we were triggered by the floor width being illegal. In the case of Monza, we're in a situation where we did return on that performance, come good towards it, and use a one-stop strategy to good avail. It was a tricky weekend from start to finish. If we focus on qualifying first and foremost, that front tyre, those front tyres, in fact, both on the front axle, were very difficult to get into the right working window. And you saw a number of teams struggling or even trying preparation laps, multiple runs. Really, the first time lap was the way to hit it, and the way to get there was good work between tyres, drivers, engineers, really understanding how to fundamentally get the car balance in a good place. And our reward was Alex really getting into that top 10 position. In terms of Franco, he did a fantastic job on his first outing. You saw in FP3, he was within a few tenths of Alex, and within qualifying, when he made that mistake, he was around about a 10th offset to Alex going into turn 7. And that's through some difficult sequences through turn 1, 2, and turn 6. Now, that's a positive place to be on your first outing in the car, and I think his performance would have been sufficient to get him through into Q2 on the first time he's raced a Grand Prix weekend. Going into the race, we then faced 2 different issues. The first is graining on that front left corner, and the graining, you can see it's sort of a darkened patch across the tread that just gets worse and worse. And when that happens, the drivers just feel tremendous amounts of understeer. The second issue, it was very warm on the day. We're at about mid-50s in terms of track temperature, and so rear surface overheating was the second issue. And it's unusual to combine both of those together at the same time. You typically have one or the other, but not both. The third, just to add complexity to it, is we asked Franco and Alex in the morning to focus on getting that one stop working well. We were confident that would pay dividends on the day. But that was a tall ask. You can't let that front tyre grain. You have to manage it continuously throughout the race, but you also have to manage the rear axle to make sure that you're not overheating. It's really just sort of rubbing your tummy and patting your head at the same time, but both achieve success in the race. There's a lot to be optimistic when we look forward to the remainder of the season. There's more performance to come. This is not the only package. And when that delivers, we should be in a positive place to keep scoring points as we move forward. Welcome to the VOWLES Verdict, presented by Kraken. Short answer, yes. The update we put on the car isn't track specific. It's something that will make the car globally faster across the tracks to the end of the year. And Baku is another track where you tend to run on the lower downforce side, and it's a track that's also been kind to us in the past. So all of that pulled together, there's absolutely a chance for points in Baku. Franco had an excellent race weekend. He put one foot wrong, which was qualifying, where he went off the track at turn 7. And up to that point was really around about a 10th off Alex, which is a positive place to start your first Grand Prix weekend qualifying. In terms of how we chose Franco, he's done thousands and thousands of kilometers in our simulator, and we benchmark our drivers and actually put them through various tests to understand how they're performing and how they're improving. They have to hit objectives. And it's not an easy trial. They're not just there developing the car and the package, but developing themselves as well at the same time with the engineers. One of the aspects that's become very clear with Franco is there's large steps for improvement. The first was around about Melbourne time, and the second actually was just before we put him in the car in Silverstone. And within a simulation environment, and it is a simulation environment, he's within the 10th of Alex. But he's consistently there. His consistency, in fact, is improving as well at the same time. His reward was at Silverstone, and this was for his performance in F2, where he was really getting faster and faster, was to take one of the FP1 sessions. And we have to do that. That's part of the situation. It's purposely done to allow rookies to have an opportunity in Formula One. And he did an outstanding job, actually better than I had expected him to. It's a difficult track to get up to speed with, And he performed very well in the low speed and the high speed, and coming really again within a few tenths of Alex on the first time out in the car. That then allowed us to keep building with him in the background and make sure that we prepared him should any eventuality come up. Now, clearly the decision making is this: do we use drivers that definitely have more experience than Franco does, that will come with their own positives? Or do we invest in an academy that we're putting not hundreds of thousands, but millions into because we believe in the future of the academy and of Williams? And the answer became very simply, let's invest in Franco, let's invest in the future, those that are giving us everything. They're coming up to the factory to make sure they're helping us develop these cars. And within that simulation environment, they're in a strong performance position. Let's keep investing in that direction. And I think the reward is what you saw in Monza. You can trust future generations of drivers. You can invest in them and get reward on the back end of it. And Franco's just at the beginning of that journey. He's got a lot more room to grow into. He's got a lot more performance to come. I think we've been validated by that decision. Absolutely. The 1 versus 2 was critical to scoring points on the day with Alex. The decision was actually in the morning. So there's discussion, the strategy meetings, depends on which team you're in and how they operate. With us, they're taking place in the morning where we bring together engineering, tires, strategy, drivers. And we're there to really understand what are the options on the table, what are the weaknesses, what are the strengths, what do we have to ensure we get working in that circumstance. And what the strategy team did very well in conjunction with the tire and the engineering teams is highlight the one stop is the way forward. But to make it work, this is what we have to do. And there's a set of compromises in that. Part of it's baked into the car setup. Part of it is how we use the tools, system, front flap. And a lot of it is how the driver actually manages the tires during the race as well. If you go into the race unsure on what you're doing, you're probably going to end up in a two-stop or compromised, or even in a halfway house between the two of them. You really have to go in with the intention of making this work. And both Alex and Franco did that, and did that very successfully as well at the same time. It's painful at times because they're driving quite a bit off the pace in order to make it work, but they managed really effectively. And you saw that a number of teams thought about the one stop, perhaps had to bail out of the one stop, and we were able to make it work. And just real strength, I think, in the fact that the team came together, had their heads together on how do we make this work, and executed it very well. The way we assess Franco is really threefold. First and foremost, lap times, be that sector times or time that you have available to yourself at the same time. The second is car performance data. So in the lap time domain, it's not just single qualifying lap, but consistency over time. In a race, clearly you have to attain over 50 laps that have to be consistent and correct in how they're performing. And so you can ascertain how are they at different points in the race. What we're then looking for in the car data is how well is Franco using the tools available to him, the brakes available to him, how's he rotating the car when it gets difficult, when the tires are really suffering with overheating, what is he doing to control that? And how quickly is he adapting to it? There's another aspect to that, which is you can hear it to a certain extent from how much in control he is over the radio. He's asking for more information, and that gives you an idea as to really how he's thinking during the race. But answering in a short way, we're looking at how well he performs against a benchmark, which is Alex. How is the consistency? How well is he executing procedures? How much bandwidth is available to him? And how he's contributing towards the car getting faster across the weekend. Franco did an excellent job. Now, we're at the beginning of the journey, and it will still be a tough journey for the remaining races, but we have a good foundation to work from.